Hey, what is up guys, Wavy here, and today I have my Avengers Infinity War showcase. I've been working on this video for the last 8 months, which is part of the reason why I kind of haven't uploaded in a while, but I'll make a separate video on that later. I don't want this one to be too long. The final count of all the figures I have for Infinity War is 40, and I don't want to have to rush each figure along, even though I'm probably going to still have to in this showcase. So I'm splitting it into 2 parts, Space Team and Earth Team. So this will be all the Space Team, the people on Titan, or in space in the movie, and then on the Earth team will be everyone on Wakanda. I think that showcase has slightly less figures than this one, so this is the bigger of the 2 halves, and this is the first half, so watch this one first. I'm super excited for this film. I already have my tickets for tonight at 6 o'clock, or 7 o'clock, not 6 o'clock, and I really hope you guys are excited. Please leave the comment spoiler free. If you don't, I will end up blocking you and deleting your comment, because I want everyone out there to have a great time going to see this movie for themselves without having anything spoiled, because spoiling stuff sucks. I got spoiled for every single Marvel film last year, so that was fun. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoy the figures. I don't want to talk about them too long, and I'll talk a bit more in the outro. Alright guys, and the first figure of this showcase is my Iron Man Mark 50. You guys have seen it before, so I won't go into too much detail about it. It wasn't one of the Infinity War parts. If you want to hear more about it, you can go over to that one. This is the second version of the figure I've made, and I'm really happy with how all the sculpted and how clean it turned out, and the accuracy as well. I'm really happy with how this figure turned out, like I said, and yeah. So there is the Tony Stark head underneath, which I just used the official one. I would have used the HUD face from the new Infinity War sets, but did not have that head when I made the figure originally. And we also have this Tony Stark head painted by my friend Dallas Prime Shane. I'll leave a link to his stuff down in the description. And yeah guys, I'm really excited to see how Iron Man deals with Thanos in Infinity War, and hopefully he doesn't die. Next figure is my Doctor Strange. Again, you guys have seen him before. I'll take this piece out of his hand though. And yeah, he's actually one of my favorites in this showcase. Most of the figure was actually just reused from my figure I made back in 2016 for Doctor Strange. I repainted the head, and I just used a Legolas head for that. It works perfectly for Benedict Cumberbatch likeness. I just recolored the eyebrows, painted a beard, and painted the little line in between the eyes, and it works perfectly. The hairpiece is the Superman hairpiece, which I just sculpted the curl onto to more accurately represent his hairstyle. My favorite 2 things on this are the cape and the Eye of Agamotto. Both are removable. The cape was cut out, Mod Podged, glued, whatever, painted, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It stays in this shape, and these things do move around the little gold bits, but that's fine. And I do have to use sticky tack so that it actually sits on his shoulders, but in the film he doesn't actually like attach the cape, it just kind of sits there, so that's why I have the sticky tack. And the Eye of Agamotto is also removable. It's just sculpted with a bit of thread to hold it around his neck. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how he acts with Tony and Peter and Bruce and all of the characters in Infinity War. And so now we'll move on to the next figure. Next figure up is Wong, an oldie but a goodie. He was in one of my first Infinity War parts, and he has stayed the same. Again, not much to talk about. Sculpted stomach, fabric glued onto the torso for his robes, and they do look really blue, but actually this and that in his arms are all purple, but it's just the lighting. I couldn't really fix it before recording this segment, so yeah, I'm really happy with how this figure turned out, and fun fact, it's actually my second Infinity War figure to get knocked off. If you check out AliExpress, there was a design that someone stole my Wong figure. You can tell by the face because it's exactly the same, but yeah, Wong's cool. He has a cool stash now, and I'm excited to see him in Infinity War. I also hope he doesn't die, because he's not in the final Thanos battle. Alright guys, and the next figure is my Iron Spider. This is actually a version 2, so if you go back and watch my Infinity War, I think it was the first part, I did showcase my first version of the Iron Spider, and then this was actually the most recent Infinity War figure I made, after seeing some more reference and the trailers and TV spots. I decided to remake the entire figure. So I'll go into a bit more depth about him. So I painted the arms, legs, head, and torso all into a metallic red that I mixed. It doesn't show that it's too metallic, but I mixed metallic red, which usually turns out pink, with some dark and light red to get it more of this red color. The blue parts are black mixed with gunmetal mixed with metallic blue, At first, I wasn't really sure. I was a little confused because I thought it was blue, but then the artist who created the design for the suit in Homecoming actually said that the pieces were black and they were not blue. However, after seeing all of the Hot Toys and costumes and the trailers, it looks more like a really, really, really dark blue that comes off as black in some lighting, so I just went with that instead. The design for the torso and the arms stayed relatively the same, except for the arms. I added his web shooter gold gauntlets, and as well as adding the lights here and here. Also, his shoulder pads are a bit of a different shape. They're not V's, they're actually kind of more straight. The design for the legs is completely different with the gold pattern going all the way around. The back I kept the same, and this is the first time I've actually fully painted a Spider-Man head. And I think it turned out pretty good. I even painted the blue eyes and then put metallic white in the middle to show that they are glowing. So yeah, that's about it for the Iron Spider, except it's not, because I forgot, I have the legs, the spider legs that he has. So I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to go about making these, and I ended up taking the ant legs from the Ant-Man set, the Antony build, and I took those legs off, I filled them in with Procreate, sanded them, glued them onto this neck bracket, and then sculpted them to it, and I think they look pretty good. I'm not even a really huge fan of him having the arms in the first place. I know it's part of the Iron Spider in the comics, and I think it looks fine there, but on this suit, the legs kind of look weird to me, but I decided to make them anyway, just so you guys could be happy, and I thought it'd be a fun little challenge to do, so yeah, they're not posable, but I do like the way that they turned out. And if we want, we can also take off the spider head and replace it with the Tom Holland head that I had painted up a while ago for Peter Parker, and there you go. So that's it for the Iron Spider. Next up is Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord. You've seen him. No updates to this figure. I did want to get the Owen head from the Jurassic World sets, however, I was not able to actually find those before the making of the showcase, and it was all a little bit too late, so yeah, like I said, you've seen them before. The torso is E-tape layered, the legs have E-tape straps and are painted, the arms are painted, back is painted, and the guns are painted up, and I painted the head to look more like Chris Pratt's facial hair by adding some solid colors instead of just all around stubble. And there also is the mask, and I used the original Guardians mask because I prefer it. The newer one just doesn't do it for me, so I took this one and then added the silver and gold and black details, and I think it looks pretty good. So there we have it for the second Peter of this showcase, and now we'll move on to Gamora. Gamora's a pretty simple figure, but effective. I really like how it turned out. I didn't do her brown trench coat thing because honestly I didn't really want to, and I don't really like the look of it. I prefer the look where she just is sleeveless. Plus I'd have to like heavily modify the jacket so that it fits around this hairpiece. That's probably my favorite part of the figure is the hairpiece instead of using the one Lego used, which isn't terrible. I use this one just because the part in the hair is different. It's a bit longer and a little less bulky, and it looks like a more realistic hairstyle than the one that Lego used for theirs. And I'm not a huge fan of the sword that I ended up using for this figure, but I think it works, and the figure itself looks really good with the rest of the Infinity War figures. I don't believe I've talked about Drax in depth because I think I forgot to show him in the one Infinity War part, and then I ended up showing him in the update video, and some of you guys might have not seen that, so in case you didn't, I'll just go over him a bit now. I ended up staying with the light gray tone that Lego used for the head, arms, and torso. I think it's fine. It looks just like Drax. I guess people, if you want to paint it dark gray, go ahead, but this doesn't really bother me, so I just left it as is. His knives were just Lego knives that I just kind of cut the front off of and then painted them silver, and the legs were the only actual customized part of this figure, so I tried to make them as detailed as I could, and I think I did a pretty good job. He's a bit taller than a normal minifigure because I did the same technique my friend Yale 97 Lego Maniac did, which was sculpting on the top of the hip piece and then covering it with an E-tape belt. That way it doesn't even look like he's extended that much, but he's a bit taller than a normal minifigure, so if I get Tony Stark in here and line him up, you can see that Drax is actually a bit taller there. So yeah, that's about it for Drax. Like I said, pretty simple but effective, and at least he's accurate now. I do really like the way that the legs turned out, though. And here we have Mantis, one of the first figures that I made for Infinity War. I ended up using the Lego's official torso because I just wanted to make the figure kind of quickly, and it's a bit inaccurate, but I think the details are kind of cool. And yeah, not much to talk about. I really like the way that this, her hip or waist cape turned out. I think it looks really cool, and I'm really happy with how the eyes turned out. I know a lot of people were kind of I've seen a couple people who've made Mantis who just use regular Lego eyes, which I'm not a huge fan of, because her pupils are bigger, which make her eye entirely black. Of course, when she moves her eye around, you can kind of see the whites around the edges, but for the most part, it's supposed to be black, so I just painted the eyes completely black, and I really like the way it turned out. It looks really accurate, and I actually haven't seen anyone else do this, so that's cool, I guess. The Lego hairpiece works perfectly for Mantis, just with some little darker gray highlights at the bottom there, and then painting on the lights on top of her antenna at the top. And yeah, that's it for Mantis. And for the other daughter of Thanos, we have Nebula. I'm actually really happy with how this figure turned out. Originally, I wasn't even sure if I was going to finish it, but I was rewatching Guardians of the Galaxy, and I just kind of got a bit of a hype, so I got down and finished it. The head was pretty simple. It was just connecting the front and back printings with some simple lines. The most complex part was the legs. I was really hard at finding reference, and I tried to make them as accurate as I could, especially for this side of the leg and for this side of the arm too. I think it ended up making it pretty accurate though, so I'm pretty happy with that. The arm, robotic arm, I could find no reference for, so I ended up actually copying MGF, his arm that he made for his Gamora, or Nebula in Volume 2. So yes, this is the one and only time you Ross fanboys can actually say you copied MGF and mean it, so have fun with that. The rest of the figure was just painted using reference, and I really like her design, and I really like how she looks in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and I hope to see more of her in Infinity War, and hopefully she gets to kill Thanos. Next for the Guardians is Teen Groot, and also, seen him before. I just gave him this phone from the Peter Parker figure from the Spider-Man Homecoming set, just because he's always on his phone in the trailers and stuff. It's more like a space futuristic video game thing, which does not look more like a phone, but that's what I just have. For this figure, he's really heavily sanded down. I also used McLovin or Chris's wood grain technique on the figure for the texture, so I'll leave a link to his channel down in the description. And yeah, there's not much to say about this figure. Like I said, I heavily sanded him down. And yeah, and also the cool thing about this head was that I had to buy the Groot figure before the Infinity War sets actually came out. I bought the figure and used the head. I ripped the head off and used it for this figure. But it's fine now because I bought the set, so I have an actual Groot. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And for the final Guardian, we have Rocket Raccoon. I'm, to my knowledge, the only one who has used this technique for a Rocket figure. I do want to point out that it is size inaccurate, and I know this, and people keep pointing it out, and I know this, but I didn't want to use a baby figure, because while it is the actual size, it's to scale with a Lego minifigure, the size of Rocket. However, it makes him look too short and fat and chubby, in my opinion, which is why I opted to use the game piece figure, and I extended it with a 1x1 tile, so that while he is size inaccurate, he does look more like skinny and lanky, like Rocket does in the film. If you look at the film, Rocket usually goes up to a person's knee area, whereas this figure goes up to about their mid-torso. So like I said, size inaccurate, but honestly it doesn't bother me that much, and I really like how the figure turned out. So I just did a lot of sculpting and used a lot of E-tape for the little designs and stuff. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this Rocket figure turned out. Accompanying the Guardians through space is Thor. I'm really excited to see how he kind of meets the Guardians. I know there's clips released online and stuff that he slams into the front of their ship, but I want to see how he gets there and how their relationship kind of works out. I think it's going to be really cool. This figure, I think, has been shown before. If not, I'll just go over it. The main thing I don't think I've really shown that much is Stormbreaker, which I used a not a 1x1. I just used a Lego rod. I attached I cut off the clip part of an axe piece, glued it to here. Then I took a two 1x1 tiles, glued it to the other side, made sure they were exactly across from each other because that would have really bugged me, and then sculpted them together, sanded, sculpted the roots around it, and I'm really happy with how Stormbreaker turned out, and I'm really excited to see how Thor ends up making it in the film. Figure itself, simple. I made it after, actually I made it before I saw Ragnarok, which you might be surprised because his suit didn't show up until Ragnarok, but this was actually one of the things that got spoiled for me in the film, was that he loses an eye. When I said I was starting Thor, a bunch of people were like, oh, like, wait to see Ragnarok first, because it had already come out in Europe, and then other people just sent me pictures, screenshots, and were like, oh, he gets this new costume, and I was like, okay, thanks. And then they sent me pictures, and then they're like, oh yeah, he also loses an eye. And I'm like, thanks. So, yeah, I mean, I was one of the first people to actually make this figure, so I guess that's cool. But yeah, I ended up painting the eye patch just onto the official head and painting the scar, sanded down the sleepy hair, and then just use E-tape layering for the torso, and then sculpted on these circles. I don't think he has any backs. I couldn't find any back reference, and at this point, I'm just a little bit too lazy to add it. So yeah, that's Thor Odinson, King of Asgard. So the next two figures are the Elder of the Universe brothers, at least that's what they are in the comics. We have Collector and Grandmaster. Now I have shown Collector in my post, so I'm just showing him here. I did give him the Reality Stone from the Thanos set, and yeah, that's pretty cool. But the main reason I'm here is to show you Grandmaster, and Grandmaster took a while. Not even because the figure is difficult, the figure is very, very simple. However, it took so long for the hairpiece to get here. I didn't have the hairpiece, so I bought two of them off of Bricklink, and my thought process was, I'm not just going to buy one, because if I need one in the future, so I just bought two. Waited weeks and weeks. After a month, it still didn't show up, and I'm waiting because I hadn't posted Collector yet, because I wanted to post Collector and Grandmaster together. So I'm still waiting, and I messaged a guy, and he's like, oh, I sent it out, and I still haven't gotten it to this day, actually. So then I go to buy another piece, and this is about a week ago, actually about 2 weeks ago, I go to buy another one of these hair pieces from a different seller on Bricklink. And then their PayPal doesn't work, and I try paying them and their PayPal doesn't work. They don't get back to me when I ask them about it. So then I ended up just not caring, went on eBay, bought the Captain Stacy figure from the one Spider-Man set, and just ripped the hairpiece off of that. It was 10 bucks, free shipping, and it got here within a week, and finally I have Grandmaster. Now I do want to preface this by saying I don't actually know if he's going to be in Infinity War. There was a leak scene before the first trailer came out that showed that Collector was in Infinity War, and that Thanos is actually going to attack him, so I did make him because he will be in Infinity War, plus I really like Benicio del Toro as the Collector. However, I did see a rumored scene description that Grandmaster goes to his brother Collector for help, and then Thanos attacks. Whether Jeff Goldblum is in Infinity War, I don't know. However, I still liked his character in Ragnarok enough to make the figure, and I'll showcase him here anyway. I'm really happy with the likeness I got, and it's really simple. The robes are fabric. I painted on a simple detail into the back there, and then his belt is E-tape glued to the torso, and I just painted on some sandals and E-tape for his little gauntlet there. And that's really about it for Jeff Goldblum, so yeah. Next we have Hein Doll, who Next we have Hein Doll, who is going to make an appearance in Infinity War. His name was on one of the posters. Idris Elba's name. Alright guys, and next we have Hein Doll. He will be in Infinity War because Idris Elba's name was actually on one of the first posters for Infinity War, so he will be in it. I do have him holding the Soul Stone here because I do believe that he is the Soul Stone still. I know there's theories that Hawkeye might have it, or that Tony Stark is the Soul Stone, or that it's on Wakanda still, but personally I still think, since the first Thor, I've thought that it's been Hein Doll, so I'm gonna stick with my guns, and hopefully it pays off in Infinity War. This was actually more of a simple figure that I just quickly made because I had some free time, and I really like Hein Doll's character, and I just made this quick figure. For the hairpiece, I just took the Qui-Gon Jinn hairpiece and sculpted an extra thread of hair coming down his face. This sword is some Mega Block sword that my friend gave me like a long time ago. It matches decently with what Hein Doll's sword looks like. And then I just have a wrap of E-tape around his back so that it actually just slides in there and stays on his back. The rest is simple. The torso I glued fabric onto for his vest. His belt is E-tape, as is the strap across his torso. And then the buckles, or the pockets on his belt, are just cut up dried Procreate. And like I said, simple figure, yet effective, and yeah, hopefully he won't die in Infinity War, but he probably will, because Thanos needs the Soul Stone, so rip. Getting to one of the last figures here, we have Loki, and he is holding the Space Stone, because as we've seen in the trailers, he actually does have it. You guys have seen this figure before, nothing's changed, and yeah, I'm still really happy with the face I painted on it, and that's about it. So yeah, Loki, and he probably will die in Infinity War, and I won't care. Sorry. Alright guys, this is a figure I'm actually really excited to show you. It is my updated version 2 Thanos, one of my favorite Infinity War figures. If you do remember, this was my first version. I do have the armored Thanos from Guardians of the Galaxy, which I originally made, but then they said he wasn't wearing that. So I made this big fig over here, and then I didn't like the big fig, I didn't like the face I painted on it, and the scale was a bit inaccurate, so after seeing the Moose Figs Dylan using the Ninjago keychain figure for his Thanos, I wanted to jump on the hype train, as many others did, and use it. So I bought one off of Amazon, a J figure, had to rip the ninja mask and the nunchucks out of his hands, had to resculpt parts of the face because I accidentally cut into it when trying to get the hood off. And after some trial and error of getting stuff off of him, I finally got the figure finished. And I'm actually really happy with how Thanos turned out. So just for scale, here is Ebony Maw, which I'll show in a second. So he's a bit taller than a minifigure, and here's a big fig reference, and he's a bit smaller than a big fig, and he's perfect scale for Thanos. So I ended up sculpting his chest and the gold plate on his chest. I sculpted the muscles on his arms for his shoulders and his biceps, as well as sculpting the gauntlet, sculpting his knee pads, and sculpting on a chin for him. I'm really happy with how the face turned out on this one, and basically everything else. I used E-tape for around his torso for his skirt thing. Now, the sad thing is that the arms and legs don't come off of this figure, so paint does rub off. So on the inside of the arm here, there's a bit of paint rub, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, so that's alright. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out, and here is a better look at the gauntlet. Now, like I said, the limbs don't detach, so unlike my Big Fig Thanos, where I made two gauntlets, one with just the two stones and one with the full set, when I could switch them out, on this figure I can't actually switch them out, so I just gave him the full gauntlet because he will get it by the end of Infinity War, I hope at least. So I just gave him the full set instead of just giving him the power and space stone, and then he only has two of the stones. So like I said, I'm really happy with how this figure turned out, and he looks great to scale with all of my other customs, and I hope you guys like it better too. Now moving on to the biggest will they won't they relationship of 2018 is the Black Order. Originally I said I was going to make them, and then I thought I wouldn't have time to, and then I was like, I don't really care about them, I'm not going to make them, and then I had time, and then I was like, I might make them, and then I ended up making them. So I have all 4 Black Order figures for the showcase as well. Hope you guys will like them. So we're starting off with Ebony Maw. One of the cooler ones, this is one of the only figures out of the 2 that I didn't use any official parts for, just because I don't actually have the Sanctum Sanctorum set. So what I ended up doing was painting the face completely from scratch, which I'm fine with because I'm not a huge fan of Lego's original head. The mouth area looked too elongated, and the eyes, they use regular Lego eyes, which I don't really think fit for this scenario. For the back of his head, I did dry brush some white on there for his hair, and you can't really see it because of the lighting, but it's there, trust me. I just painted on this design on the torso and used E-tape for the little flaps at the front, and then I used E-tapes for his sleeves on his arms, and then painted his gunmetal shoulder pads, and that's about it for Ebony Maw. Pretty simple and effective, and hopefully, you know, he kicks some ass before probably dying. Next is Proxima Midnight. I did actually have the official figure. I bought the Hulkbuster set, so I ended up using the torso and the hairpiece for this figure. The torso is completely accurate, so I was completely fine with using it, and the hairpiece was actually really awesome. So I use those two things. For the hairpiece, I actually sculpted it onto the head so that there was no separation, and then I ended up actually painting some sealant on there, which is why it's so shiny. I repainted the head because I wasn't a huge fan of Legos and using the Lego eyes. Her spear here was using a Lego rod, which I sculpted this end of, and then on this end I glued some toothpicks and sculpted the end so that it has the three-pronged spear. The arm is simple. I sculpted the shoulder pad and the fin on this arm, and then everything else on this figure was completely painted. That was E-tape, and the rest was painted. And like I said, pretty simple figure. And she looks like she's going to be cool in Infinity War, and she's also probably going to die. Next up is Corvus Glaive, everyone's favorite Black Order figure of mine. While working on this figure originally, when I was just painting the torso, I really wanted these figures to stand out, and Corvus Glaive was no exception. He's super, super detailed, and I wanted to add all of that detail into the torso I painted for this figure. And after painting all the detail I could conceivably fit onto the torso, I was really not happy with it, and I posted that on my story, and everyone's like, well, F you, because it's actually amazing, and I couldn't paint that good, and yeah, but I wasn't too happy with the torso. After gluing the fabric on top of it and kind of adding the legs and stuff, I think it looks fine now. But yeah, I didn't actually have the Corvus Glaive minifigure when I got this figure, or when I got started on this figure, so I didn't actually use any parts from him. Not that I was going to anyway, because I didn't even like the head they used on that one because it made him look way too young, so I ended up repainting the face. The hood piece, I used a hood piece and glued cards onto the side for his gold section design thing, and then I also painted on all the gold detail onto his hood. His cape is just a regular Lego cape, which are just cut pieces out of. The fabric on the front of his torso is from a Lego sale, and then I use E-tape for his belt and painted on all the detail onto his legs as well. For his actual glaive, I took a Lego staff and I just pulled his hand out. I took a Lego staff and glued card onto either end and then just painted them up the appropriate details. And yeah, it might be a bit big, but I think his glaive is supposed to be pretty big, so it's fine. And that's it for Corvus Glaive. There we go. And now we'll move on to the last figure of the showcase. And the last figure is a big one. Called Obsidian. I ended up using the official figure for this because while I didn't have the Sanctum Sanctorum set, I just bought it off of Bricklink and had it sent over to me. So yeah, this figure came with a lot of 3D elements I added and such. The arms are Thing arms from a D-Cool figure because Corvus Glaive actually has a lot of scales on him, and at first I was just going to sculpt them on until I realized that I just have the Thing sitting there. So might as well just use those arms, and I painted them. For his skin tone, I used a mixture of brown, tan, and some green, as his skin tone looks to be. For his torso and everything, I used an E-tape strap for his torso, and for his belt on the bottom there, I used card for the front and back panels of the figure. I painted on all the detail on the back since it was blank originally. I sculpted his shoulder pad underneath his shoulder pad, and I sculpted this little belt ring here, used E-tape for that. Painted the detail on the sides of his legs, which you can't see there, but you can see here on the sides of his legs and the front and inside and back of his legs. I also ended up repainting the face since I didn't like Legos, and this is based off the Marvel Legends figure where he has kind of like black circles around his eyes and yellow eyes. So, yeah. That's it for Corvus Glaive. That's a lie. That's it for Black Dwarf. And that's it for this showcase. So now we'll move on to finish part 1 for this monumental movie. Alright guys, and that's going to do it for this showcase. I really hope you guys enjoyed all the figures as much as I enjoyed making them all. Like I said, this is part 1, so go head over to part 2 for Earth Team. That includes Black Panther, Black Widow, Captain America, White Wolf, and Falcon, Vision, and so many others. Like I said, I had a huge fun time making all of these figures, and I'm really excited to finally go see the film after 4 years of waiting, after 10 years of emotional investment. I'm ready to have my heart broken by half of these characters dying off in this film. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the showcase. If you did, be sure to leave a like, and if you have not subscribed, I try to post videos weekly, but this is the first video I've uploaded in like a month and a half, and I'll make an update video on that sometime later. So yeah, be sure to check out my social media where I got around to posting these figures way before I got around to posting them on a final showcase video on YouTube. And that's going to be it for the showcase, guys. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you over in part 2.